Hi, my name is Wayne Coe. I'm reporting on Executive Order 203 and 150 years of only white male policemen in the Village of Chatham. Executive Order 203 is whereas Black Lives Matter. Governor Cuomo has signed Executive Order 203 to investigate white supremacy in New York State policing. Whereas the recent history includes a number of incidents involving the police that have resulted in the deaths of unarmed civilians, predominantly black and African American men, that have undermined the public's confidence and trust in our system of law enforcement. And criminal justice and such condition is ongoing and urgently needs to be rectified. And there is a long and painful history in New York State of discrimination and mistreatment of black and African American citizens dating back to the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in America. So why this conspicuous absence of women and black people hired to receive the socialized welfare of the 1,700 villagers in the community? Did anyone glance at that white supremacy PDF I sent?
Yeah, I actually read the whole thing. It was very interesting.
That's what I think.
It's good to get reminded of the background and the history.
My reading of 203 is exactly that. Like the first weeks, we should have been asking ourselves, is there evidence of white supremacy in the village police? Because that seems to me the central focus of the 203. That's why I was talking with Peter and saying we have no information about the history of the police department, which I think we should have had immediately. We don't have any, or I have no data or anything in print about what they actually do, which again, I think we should have had the first week, and I'll make it a formal request. Where's the history of the Chatham Police Department? I'd like it. Where's 2 or 3 years of, what they actually do?
It's not for anybody to come online and say, I demand to see this and I should have seen it on this date. We have a format that we're following. In January, we're going to review all that data. And at the end of January, we're going to issue a report and have a public hearing. And it's not where somebody comes on this webpage and says, I demand to see this, and you're all a bunch of white supremacist elitists that are exploiting the system.
Michael, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. Please do not put words in my mouth. Policing in Chatham is kind of a ceremonial role. They're not really required to do anything. They have activities they do, but it's a socialized welfare for white men with guns. And while that sounds, while that sounds odd, there have never been any women or black people who've gotten this monetary bequest, this welfare from the 1,700, and it was probably a lot more at one time, villagers. So what we have here is a system whereby the villagers are taxed. 1,700 of them for the benefit of about 3 officers who are very highly paid. Miss Bones or Mr. Bones.
I ask a point of order here. Whoever is chairing this meeting, it's not my purpose to sit here and listen to a list of statistics that have no foundation whatsoever. But to sit here right now and listen, first of all, Joe Alisi is a part-time employee. He doesn't make $50,000. I mean, why do I have to listen to this? It's not because
all you have to do, Michael, all you have to do is give me the information. Just give me the information. Don't keep me in the dark.
Wayne, Joe did provide a lot of that information in one of the very first meetings we had, and maybe Joe, that you could provide that again to the whole group, and he's going to continue to provide the data that he's gathering. And I just want to say one more thing. And when you bring up very good points, and it's good to know the history, but the point is we're trying to move forward, we're trying to reform. So I think definitely two points that you make coming out of this is that we, as a collaborative, have to recommend to the village trustees that every effort, and we should make suggestions about what those efforts might be, should be made if we continue to have a police department to make the opportunity available to all underrepresented groups, women, people of color, etc.
I totally agree. I couldn't agree more.
Please
But
let Lisa finish. Please let Lisa finish.
all I did was agree with her.
All I had to say. I just wanted to make sure that we're just focusing on the report that we're trying to do as a collaborative. And I think we're all on the same page, Wayne. We all agree with you. Nobody's disagreeing with you about that. We will be included in the report. If you want, agreeing with him in the sense that we need to make sure. No, Michael, you don't agree that.
My point that I'm making, and carefully, let's go through it again. We're collecting the data. The data will show the arrest records, the activities, what they are doing, as Wayne puts it. What are they doing? All that's going to be reflected out in the data. The feelings of the community are being captured and reported. But it's being done according to a formula that we've laid out.
Thank you.
There have been several women employed in this police department. There have been several blacks employed in this police department.
I don't believe any full-time employees with benefits have been hired that were not white males. Otherwise, Pete Minahan would have sent me that information. I've now asked him twice over the last month, and so it is. I feel comfortable. And he may come back with what I asked for, which is their badge number and how long they served. He may inform me, which is really the substance of what I was saying. Give me information. But at this point, I feel comfortable saying that as far as a staffed, benefited person, all those jobs have discriminated against having women or people of color. And if we look at the process, and here you're going to argue with me, but let me finish. It's going to be very brief. The process of white discrimination or white supremacy is not a black and white issue, not to be too funny. It is a spectral issue that deals with political discrimination, lack of representation. It deals with economic, and it deals with legal, and it deals with military violence. Now, you could make a reasonable argument that the issues of white supremacy addressed in the 203, which is our subject of discourse, is military. It's violence. It's violent white supremacy. But economic white supremacy is what keeps perfectly talented, intelligent, capable women and people of color out of the job market, and what that does is it depresses their income, which is why people of color have 1/10 the economic value as white people. And so I can look at it and I think I can make a reasonable statement that this has denied this socialized welfare to people of color, perhaps since the beginning of the police department. And that to me is a harm, and I do not want to be taxed to support this harm on women and people of color. So that's where I'm coming from. If you're going to socialize my money, I want it to be done where it's not harming people of color, because I perceive that as hostile to my brothers and sisters. Thanks.
Let me jump in here. Do you know of any people of color that have applied to be a Chatham police officer and was turned down?
I'm not a member of the village governance.
I'm not.
Okay, but you're trustee. So if you want to drop out and make me a member of the village governance, then I will make it a mandate.
No,
Okay.
my point is my point is you're making a statement like it's happened, and I'm not aware that anyone has applied and been turned down. If they've been turned down, I'm not sure. And if they were, what is the reason they were turned down? So we just hired a female police officer Monday night, by the way.
We are looking at the current police department and the current police department's policies. That's what we were asked to do. We weren't asked to look at what happened 10 years ago.
The executive order contradicts him. Whereas there is a long and painful history in New York State of discrimination and mistreatment of Black and African American citizens dating back to the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in America.
We haven't had a full-time officer or a full-time employee in the police department since Eric resigned and went to Catskill. That was the last one. What was that? 6 years ago? 6 years.
Quite a long time ago.
Yeah, and so, having someone from the public come in and make demands of the collaborative to focus on hiring practices from 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago when there were full-time employees, by the way, that had to be hired off the competitive civil service list because they were full-timers. Was the applicant pool even populated by people of minority, women, people of color? I happen to know the answer, and the answer is no.
Could I make a point? Just not to interrupt you, Michael, but we were moving ahead so well in this meeting as to what we needed to do. I would really like to finish on a high note and go back to moving ahead with what we were trying to figure out, our timeline, and move ahead instead of dwelling on this conversation that just came on. If anybody else agrees with me, let's move ahead.
Lisa, this is Catherine. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Lisa and Adrian, I'm also, as you both know, willing to help on collecting the data.
Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah. And I also just want to put my 2 cents in. I do think it's, how to put it, the fact that we have no real input on youth and our Black community members, I think is really, there's a big gap there for me. And maybe what most of you have said tonight, that it's because they have nothing, they don't care, or there's nothing to really give feedback on. Maybe that's true. I guess I would like to feel a little more confident about that. And I think that I'm really disappointed that we weren't able to do more on that score.
One of the things, sorry, Catherine.
Yeah, no, I just want to put that out there because those are 2 of the main demographics that often historically, of course, do have issues with and one of any data. So I just think that, to me, that's a gap. Maybe there's nothing to report, but to me, I think that's a missing.
One of the things that I mentioned earlier is we don't really have the statistics yet from Lisa's 122, and there'll be more by then, to know if any of that demographics is in there or not. We don't have that piece yet to know that we don't have any, other than Iris and Sharifa and everybody. We talked about that a little bit earlier. I don't know if you were on yet.
Oh, I came on a little late, and I apologize.
That's okay. I just wanted to let you know that we did talk about some in there.
And I did see Iris a few days ago on the weekend. She was walking by my house, and she said that she had been trying to connect with people. So I think she's not on tonight. Maybe there's a little bit more tonight, but maybe she wasn't successful again. So we don't know why. And I guess I'm always curious, well, why is there no input? To me, that is a message there, possibly. I don't want to read into it, but it's possible. The fact that there's no input is also a message.
The collaborative is secret. No notice of the committee was posted for 4 months. No minutes or video records kept. But for this posting here, the ex-officers, officers, wives, and police have effaced all records of our deliberations on Executive Order 203.
I have gone out and spoken to people who identify as African American or Black that live in the village. And I spoke to them very directly saying, are you aware that we're doing this? To a person, they said no. And I said, well, here's what we're doing, and we're looking for some feedback. And to a person, they said that they had no interest in getting involved. It doesn't mean anything to them. If they had any comments, they were comments kind of like what we've been hearing. Because the only time I see the police is out at the the pump station or here and that. I really don't interact with the police. I see the county around. I see the state guys around. Now, I went out and talked to exactly 6 Black people that live in the village, and they told me that they just don't care. They're not going to get involved. They're not going to draw a survey, and they wish me happy New Year.
Yeah, no, I heard that.
And so I would suggest that if you know Black people in the community, go talk to them.
I don't really know any Black people.
And again,
But
I
not
would say
people
that
not
there's more than
wanting to
25
get involved, Michael. People not wanting to get involved can also mean something more than not wanting to get involved. Why don't they want to get involved? But let's just leave it. I get the picture.
Well, no, but what I
don't
want to say,
mean more about.
Catherine, what I want to say is the people that I talk to, I do know, and they would tell me. So don't read anything into it that's not there. They don't want to get involved because they don't want to get involved. Seriously, you're reading something into it that's just not there.
Okay, well, that's your view, but I don't know. Anyway.
I know that. There are people I know.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple ways to look at non-response, but hopefully with the survey and Joe's demographics, maybe it might not shed the entire light on it, but it might show us that one, people that did respond are not seeing an issue, and maybe there's not that much police contact to create an issue, or as far as vehicle stops or arrests. So hopefully that sheds some light on why people.
We're guessing a little bit, but whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see what we finally come up with. But to me, I was really disappointed that we didn't. Those two groups seem to be just.
Caller 3 seems to be trying to talk. Still, Joe, are you still? Caller?
My recommendation is that 203 be used for a referendum so that the public can quickly and efficaciously have transparency and have representation and interface with the police by telling them whether they think they need ceremonial jobs as these policemen are, because they provide me with those services. Unlike the mailmen who I can see deliver my mail, unlike someone who comes to fix my house or plow my snow or deliver me water to my house like the village water system, I get no benefits from my taxation for village policing.